Good morning, everyone. I heartily welcome you all to the Golden Jubilee edition of International Film Festival of India. This is the inaugural session of more than 30 master classes and in-conversation sessions planned this time. This session will give you all a peek into how the ecosystem of production, marketing, and distribution of films work. And for this, we have today the man behind the epic film that forever altered the rules of storytelling and technology in Indian cinema, the co-founder and CEO of Arca Media Works, the real Bahubali, Mr. Shobu Yarlagadda. Along with him, we have Siddartha Roy Kapoor, an eminent film producer, founder and MD of Roy Kapoor Films and the president of the Producer Guild of India. Siddarth's filmography includes some of the highest grossing Indian films of all times like Dangal, PK, Chennai Express, as well as films like Rang De Basanti, Barfi and many more. To take this ship forward, we have a well-known film critic, journalist, editor and film trade analyst. Please welcome our moderator for the session, Mr. Taran Adarsh. Before we start, sir, can you please come on the stage? And before we start, may I please call upon stage our Principal DG PIB, Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, Shri Kuldeep Dhatwalia sir, to present mementos to our guests. Thank you, sir. Now I hand over the mic to Taran Adarsh.
Namaste Goa. And the 50th year of IFFI and its landmark year. And it's a very special year this year because we flag off the panel discussion with two eminent names. Names जो पर्दे के पीछे रहते हैं, उनके बारे में अक्सर हम जानते नहीं. We're not really aware of their achievements in the making of a film, in the contribution to a film, to the success or to the larger picture. Mr. Siddartha Roy Kapoor, we've just heard a brief introduction about him. He is one of the most prolific filmmakers that we have in our country, having produced a number of films from Dangal to Rang De Basanti to Kick to Chennai Express. The filmography is huge and extremely full of hits and super successes. Apart from that, he's the president of the Film Producers Guild of India. Besides that, of course, he started his own company now, Roy Kapoor Films, and he's producing a number of films under the production outfit. On the second person, उनके बारे में मैं क्या कहूँ? उनके बारे में सिर्फ एक ही सवाल है जो हम सबके जुबान पे था जब उनकी फिल्म रिलीज हुई थी कि कटप्पा ने बाहुबली को क्यों मारा? That one line of Bahubali triggered off wild imaginations across social media, across television, news channels, newsprint, everywhere. He's the man. Along with Mr. S.S. Rajamouli, again a genius, a volatile combination that produced Bahubali in 2 parts. Earlier too, we've had a couple of movies that were produced in 2 parts, but unsuccessful, but didn't really make a mark. So what was it about Bahubali? Was it just the storytelling? Was it just the production, the huge grandeur that we saw on the screen? Was it just the Katappa Bahubali marketing thing that was? And correct me if I am wrong, we're going to ask him this question. You know, since we're going to talk about marketing here, for the second part of Bahubali, the conclusion, the producers, please correct me if I am wrong, had a focus on social media to drive the promotion forward. We'll talk about it later, of course. But marketing today is very important. And then the audience took over, and the marketing, the word of mouth, as we say, spreads faster than air and fire. वो आग से ज़्यादा और पानी से ज़्यादा और हवा से ज़्यादा jaldi phailta hai, and that's how Bahubali became the benchmark of Indian cinema. Shattered all records left, right and center, set new benchmarks at the box office. Or aaj bhi, today Bahubali is the only film, I'm talking of the Hindi version, Bahubali Hindi is the only film in the history of Hindi cinema, I repeat, to cross 510 crore net box office collections in India, which is phenomenal. No other film has not even touched 400. The next film that came closer to 400 was, of course, Dangal, produced by Mr. Siddartha Roy Kapoor. So we have two giants here. So we have two personalities who will talk about, and I'm sure there will be a lot of questions. So I'm going to be handing over the mic to them, and I'm going to start with both of them. So it's going to be a general interview, Q&A session, and post that specific question, and then it's up to you what you want to ask. आपके मन में, आपके जहन में ऐसे कई सवाल होंगे जो आप इनसे पूछना चाहते होंगे. इनसे, I'm sure a lot of aspiring filmmakers, writers, distributors, people who want to get into marketing. Well, this platform is not going to be seen again. So take full use of it. You know, the first question. Hello. Yeah. You know, the first question is pretty obvious. When we talk of a lot of people who come from film backgrounds, for them to make movies, to get into this field is very, very easy. These two gentlemen came from non-film backgrounds. बहुत लोगों की तरह जिनमें आप भी शामिल हैं, जो एक non-film background से आते हैं और अपने पैर जमाते हैं और एक मकाम हासिल करते हैं. So let's begin with their success story, starting with Siddartha and then Shobu. Please. How did you all start out? How was it? How was the journey when you actually desired? Did your parents say film industry? Kyun?
Thanks, sir. So you know, it's very interesting because I'm actually. Yes, I'm not from a film background, but in fact, the other way around is my grandfather, that's my dad's dad. This was before partition. Came to Bombay with his share of the ancestral wealth from what was earlier, like part of India, which was basically a place in Pakistan, Lahore. And he came to India with 3 kids, came to Bombay, and made 5 films and lost all his money. And so, in fact, my dad's generation was vehemently opposed to films because they obviously had seen their father go through whatever he'd gone through. So for me, it was actually not just actively not part of a film background, but actually part of a background where at least the paternal side of my family felt very averse to feeling like the sense of insecurity of the film business. But I was a movie-obsessed kid growing up completely. I'd be reading the Screen magazine at the age of 8 or 9 and seeing trade figures and muhurats and all that. So, like a lot of you in this room, I'm sure. I grew up knowing that I did want to be associated with the movies in some way or the other. But you as a young person growing up, you want a sense of security in life. You don't know how you're going to be able to make that leap. And so I went down the path of marketing. And, I did my MBA. I was doing theatre all through school and college, but that was just sort of the artistic side of what I wanted to be doing. But for a sense of financial security, you needed to have a degree and the academic qualifications and all that. So I secured that. But I think what I'd done is I'd done a summer internship at UTV back in, when I was in college. And I stayed in touch with Ronnie Screwvala all through after that. And when I was around 30, I was with Star TV in Hong Kong, doing fairly well career-wise and all that. But I'd stayed in touch with him, and he said that he was setting up a studio. And, again, he's someone who's not to the manner born or from the film industry. And he'd been a mentor to me. And he said, why don't you come and sort of head up marketing? We've greenlit this film called Rang De Basanti, and we really want to give it all we've got. And we've got another film called Parinita that is going to be releasing simultaneously. So why don't you come back? And I was on the next flight back to Bombay, literally. And it all started from there. So it was a bit of a circuitous route to get to be doing what I want to be doing. But I think the idea of trying to get there was sort of always there.
Yeah, yeah. And what about you, Shobu?
Mine is. Hello? Yeah, mine is in quite a contrast to Sid's story. So I grew up in Andhra in a typical. My family was from farming, agricultural background, and the normal thing for at least in Andhra and Telangana is that they want their kids to be engineers. So that's a default route. So, so I ended up like most of the kids of my time doing engineering, and then going abroad for doing my masters. Then I worked as an environmental engineer. Then the other thing with Andhra families, especially from my community, I wouldn't say it's a thing, is everybody wants to be on their own, or start something on their own, do something on their own. So I wanted to do start my own business. So I ended up coming back to India and joining my cousin's company, completely unrelated to business, movies. And that didn't go well. Then I came out, then joined the .com bandwagon. And the .com went bust in 2000, so went bankrupt there. And by which time I'd got married to my wife Lakshmi, who is from the film background. And in a very contrasting way, I was looking for another third new business to and this time third was the final time I had to survive in this world, and I had gone down almost bankrupt. And then I had some support, good support, not some, from my in-laws side, because by virtue of contacts and access to the industry. But I said okay, I'll start a television production house, and that's how I got into television production. We started doing television, me and my partner Prasad. So we started with television shows. It was a long journey from there. It took us with one show, and then at that time it was some 50,000 rupees or 60,000 rupees an episode in 2001. And we stuck to that for like 5 years. Then it went to 2 shows, then 3 shows. Then we eventually got in with Rajamouli and Chris, the directors who made our first films, Vedam and Maryada Ramanna. And then from there, after 7-8 years of struggle, it took off. So that's my route into.
Yes, very interesting journey, and it only goes to prove one thing, that you need to chase your dreams. अगर आप सपने देखते हैं तो उनको साकार करने के लिए, अपने सपनों को पूरा करने के लिए आपको जद्दोजहद करनी पड़ती है और पूरी कोशिश लगानी पड़ती है. And I think these two fine gentlemen are perfect examples of it. You all just mentioned about starting out in a very different way, perhaps in television. You just mentioned television, and so did you actually. Television, say, now that you make a Bahubali, or television, say, when you started out, and then you were making Dangal and Kick and Rang De Basanti, working with the bigger stars, did you ever think that transition would really happen?
From films to from television to films.
Yeah. Was that the natural next step, or what? It just happened?
For me, see, the thing was, like I said, television, especially in Telugu, was very limiting. But at the same time, it afforded us the security of having a certain income. It was non-risk. It was there was no risk at all. It was basically you produce a show and you get X amount, and if you produce it under that budget, you make money. There was no risk involved. And for us, when we started out, we couldn't afford to take any risk. So but parallelly, I had worked as a line producer on some projects, and that's where I gained my production experience, working as a line producer on the field with Telugu films and projects. We also did project like Morning Raga, which UTV distributed at that time. So that's where we gained the working knowledge. And only when after 7-8 years, when we felt we had a certain level of comfort in terms of financial comfort, that's when we ventured into our first couple of projects with people that we were very comfortable with. That is with Rajamouli and with Maryada Ramanna and thing. So it was a organic progression. And television still is our bread and butter. We still produce shows, television shows. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah. It's we still continue to do so.
Okay, that's wonderful. What about you, Sid?
For me, Taran, it was hard to fathom being able to make an inroad into the film industry because, at least in the Hindi space at that time, there were exceptions to the rule, but more often than not, you were to the manor born and you were someone who was someone's son or grandson and so on and so forth. And I think I found myself in the right place at the right time because Ronnie was making a call to set up a studio which was, separately funded and which was going to be, in a sense, breaking the norms of not being from the industry and coming in from the outside.
Right.
And I'm so glad that he asked me to come along for the ride with him. So that was not something I could have anticipated. I might have aspired to it, and maybe I was working towards it subliminally at the back of my mind in some way. But I could not have fathomed being able to make an inroad into the film industry in that sense.
Right. But you just mentioned about Ronnie, and you just mentioned about for the third time round getting help from not help, I would say encouragement from your in-laws. A lot of people here, and a lot of people beyond this panel also, or beyond this people who are listening to this conversation, would want to join movies, would want to be part of the film industry. Perhaps they're looking at just the glamour part. Perhaps a lot of people would be wanting to be writers, directors, getting into the marketing or distribution or production of films. What is one advice that you would want to give to them? How does one begin actually? अगर डॉक्टर बनना है तो एक कोर्स करना पड़ता है. आप मेडिकल कॉलेज जाते हैं, इंजीनियर बनना है तो वो होना, ये तो इंजीनियर भी हैं, इन्होंने किया है. बट फिल्म इंडस्ट्री आने के लिए देयर इज नो कोई बुक नहीं है, कोई रूट नहीं है कि आप सीधा उस इंडस्ट्री में आ जाए और आपको वो मकाम हासिल हो जाए. How does one begin?
I think over the last 10-15 years, there's been a gradual change, and a lot of students are going to academies now, film institutes, and a lot of academies have come up which of decent and good quality, which have a good faculty and a good teaching, not just Pune Institute, but a lot of faculty. So that is one stepping stone where you're going to an academy, because many times earlier, my previous generation, a lot of people came because they didn't know nothing else to do, they couldn't do anything else. They said, I'll join movies. I'm not successful, I can't be a doctor, engineer, and nothing else, and they're not doing anything at home. They would say, go work in the film industry. So that's not generalizing, but there was a huge chunk, at least in South, that was the general. And there are a lot of passionate people who just came away saying that I want to be a writer or a director or an actor, and then struggle their way through. That was the generation of Chiranjeevi Garus and all the major artists who have come through from NTRs to, at least in the South, who have come away from their house, struggled on the roads, and found their break in the industry. But nowadays, fortunately, there's a lot of academies and educational institutions that are cropping up, and I think that's a great place to start learning the industry. And I would suggest that after that, the next best thing would be not in a hurry to make your film or write a story, but work under someone. Work under someone, try to get a contact or try to get access to someone who you look up to, or you would love to work, or the similar body of work that they are doing, and go and work with them, and don't be in a hurry to after working for 6 months, let's say I'm ready to make a movie.
But is it easy to get work or be an assistant of someone?
I will be frank, it's not easy. It's not easy. You have to be persistent. You have to be committed. And I think nowadays there's a lot of opportunity. I think that now is the best time ever with the OTT platforms, with the television exploding, with movies looking for newer and newer scripts. I think it's the best time ever. If you are looking at the film industry, this is the best time ever. We are desperately looking for good writers. It doesn't matter from where you're coming, but if you have come from an institute and we see see certain quality of work that we can work with, we are all looking for, and I'm sure Sid will agree, all of us are looking for writers. But it is not easy, and it's not like it's going to happen over a period of time. You need to find that. If you might have to go to 10 offices, and finally you'll find an opportunity in the 11th office. So it's a struggle, but there's a huge opportunity at the same time.
Fantastic. What about you?
No, I actually completely agree with Shobu. It isn't easy to start with. So, and I don't think, I guess no one in this room even has those preconceptions. Everyone knows that it's difficult. But I think whatever is in your control, you need to be able to do. So I think luck is when preparation meets opportunity, right? The opportunity is not in your control. The preparation is. So if you're able to invest in yourself, which is sharpen your skills as a writer, as a director, as a filmmaker, as an actor, in whichever capacity you want to be involved in the industry, work on yourself to that extent, number one. Number two, then really put yourself out there and knock on 100 doors. It's just about that one door opening, right? And we've all had, situations in our life where we've had someone take a chance on us and someone believe in us. And I think that's the most important thing, to put yourself in a position where you're able to knock on those 100 doors and be able to convince that one person to believe in you. And that's really what it takes. Then, of course, it's up to your own talent to be able to take that opportunity forward. But don't get disheartened, because it's not easy. There will be a lot of no's. You'll have to hear a lot of no's. But believe me, all through your career in films, you will keep hearing a lot of no's. I'm sure Shobu and I both know that as well. It's not like we go to an actor today and every actor is like, yes, we're doing your film. Or that, there are a lot of no's that you'll have to keep hearing. But the beauty is that it's that one yes that can change everything. So just keep at it and don't, give up.
Which is so true. I mean, आप अगर कोशिश करते रहेंगे, the bottom line is कि अगर आप कोशिश करते रहेंगे तो वो एक ना एक दिन वो कहते हैं ना कि अगर रात कितनी काली क्यों ना हो, सुबह सवेरा तो होना ही है. So that's very important to keep chasing your dreams, to keep knocking the doors. But अगर एक फिल्म मेकर आता है, फिल्म बनाता है, अपने पैसे लगाता है, financier से पैसे लेता है, if he invests in his own movies, makes a film, what about the distribution? Is releasing a film very difficult in today's times?
Sid will throw more light, but I think making a film
you
is...
did South Indian films as well.
I'm saying making a film is the easiest part of the deal. Okay. especially if you have no lead star cast, of known cast. If you made a small film, that is the easiest part. You can put some money together. Some friends and some family will trust you and give you some money, and you'll go shoot a film, make it. It can be a brilliant film. That's the easiest part. If you thought that's a struggle, getting it to release is there's so many films today which are made, which are canned and are left in don't have release, don't find a platform to release, because the marketing and publicity spend of a film may far exceed the production cost of the film, and that you might never recover. So marketing and publicity. So what I always tell people who come to me, if you're going to make a film, don't just look at making a film. Look at what is your thought process, how are you going to get it to theaters, or nowadays you have other opportunities to digital platforms. How is the plan? Do you have have you thought through that? Don't just be in a hurry to just say, I'm making a film. Think through, how are you going to, which is the audience that you're looking for, what is the audience you're making the film for, and how are you going to reach out to that audience, in what way? Today you have social media, you have what kind of social media platforms are you going to use to reach out to that? How will you create a buzz? And how will you excite the distributors to come and say that, okay, I'll give your film a chance? Those are all that you need to be thought through once the script is written and before you plunge into production. If you're not sure of that, I would say don't even get into production. That's my sincere advice.
But tell me, sorry, I'll just come to you on that. But when you started out, at the inception level of, say, Bahubali, when you're discussing with Mr. Rajamouli and saying that let's make it into two parts. We have Prabhas, we have Rana Daggubati, we have the entire cast, most of the cast actually from Telugu film industry. To release it pan-India, to have a pan-India release, dubbing it in Hindi, other languages and releasing it, distribution. The gamble of investing so much money, did that thought cross your mind?
Absolutely. That's always on the back of the mind of any producer. Whether it's a small film or a big film. And for anyone, if you're making a film with 1 crore or 100 crores, it's still a lot of money. For me, if I'm making a film, someone is making a film with 1 crore, 1 crore is probably his life savings and everything that is borrowed from everybody else. It's the same risk, actually, if you look at it. But as far as Bahubali is concerned, yes, when we started and we read the script, and when the script was done, when Rajamouli came with the script, we realized that it has a span that can't be contained in one film, right? So that was a very early on decision and also the budgets that were required and the sets that we were going to build and the effort that was going to go into it could not be justified in one film. So it was a very early call that we said we'll have to break it into 2 films. So they went back to the drawing board and reworked it and saw the entire screenplay from a 2-film perspective and broke it down and said, okay, this is where we are going to be the first part and this is going to be the second part. And the early budgets were pretty much higher, but much higher than the regional film budgets, but still not what we ended up spending. So that was, if I knew what we were going to spend, ultimately we would have never made the film.
Oh! Now this is the revelation.
It's all because it was an incremental increase in budgets that once you take the leap, which happens in every film, I'm telling you, it's not a small film or big. Once you take the leap, the budgets are really not in your control. You can do everything to contain it, but it will have extraneous factors and change of vision and increasing vision and everything else, which will keep enlarging the budget. It's very lucky if you can pull it off in the or under what you started off with. In most cases, it can be, but it's not the So especially with someone like Rajamouli who has a huge vision, it kept increasing, and then we realized that this is one story. Again, not every story can do this. This is one story that can have a pan-India appeal. We don't need to have a star to appeal to this story. It's about kings and queens and drama that every Indian is used to. It's like the Marvel universe. We don't know who the star is, but people go to see the Marvel universe. I mean, to see the film not because of the stars. We go because we are fascinated by the universe. So that's one thing that very early on had. And I think that's why we started very early on, even in 2012 and 13, once we started production, the first day of shoot itself, we started engaging on social media platforms. We started creating that awareness and started building up to a pan-India release. But I think eventually what really helped us was the partnerships that we knew, and this was also a learning from Rajamouli's earlier film, Ega, which was a disaster in Hindi. Unfortunately, it was deserved a much better release and a much better. It could have done much better in the box.
It was called titled Makhi.
Makhi in Hindi. Yes. Makhi in Hindi. Although it did extremely well in
it is a fantastic film. If you watch it, please do watch it.
It's a fabulous film. Did very well internationally in all the film circuits. But unfortunately in Hindi, it wasn't released and platformed right.
Yes.
And that's when we realized, and I spoke to Rajamouli and said, we need someone in North who will be a partner for us and guide us through the whole